and welcome back to another episode of the Three at the Back podcast. I'm your host, Darren, and as always, joined by my good buddy Scott, aka FPL Heavy Metal. Scott, how you doing, buddy?
All good, my man. Yourself?
Yeah, good, good. It's been a hectic couple of weeks, I will
Isn't it
say.
just?
Obviously, missing out on a recording for the game weeks. Technically, game week 19. We did cover that in our game week 18 episode, but missed out on the game week 20 deadline. Just wild, really, that we've had 3 full game weeks in about 10 days.
It's impossible to keep on top of it unless you're doing daily content, and we're obviously far too busy to be involved in that sort of thing. It's just impossible to do, isn't it? So today we're going to cover the games literally that are just finished. The City Chelsea game is literally just finished.
Yep.
There's another deadline, in 2 days on the Tuesday. So we'll try and cover off a bit of that, bit of the news that's gone on in the last week or 10 days, and yeah, hopefully give a bit of advice on that moving forward. And then next week there's a break. You got FA Cup at the weekend, so a bit of downtime, and then we might come out with something a bit different next week. Review the first half of the season, the highs and lows, the trials and tribulations, and that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we originally kind of planned to do that at the halfway point after the 19 or 20 games had passed, but then Paul decided that he needed a week off in Las Vegas. So we're going to save it until all three of us are back and raring to go.
He reckons he's working.
I mean, that's what I heard too. So we'll kind of let him. We'll kind of let him off. It's not technically a holiday.
Rumors are that he's working out there, but I'm not sure.
Rumors are indeed. Isn't it right? Let's get into it. Game week 20, as you said, is just closed off now with that City Chelsea game coming to a conclusion. But let's wind it all the way back to the Saturday games with Villa and Forest serving up a bit of a treat for us. Goals at both ends. Villa bouncing back as well, and looking still very much like a threat to those top two teams in the league right now. John McGinn with 2 goals. Watkins scoring again as well. Villa keep rolling on.
Well, let's wind it back a bit further to the previous game where Villa got turned over by Arsenal pretty comprehensively. Probably signifies their title challenge. I would think that they'd probably be up there for a Champions League spot, but I can't see them forcing their way into the top 2. Not after that dismantling. I mean, Arsenal proper took them to task, and it was a solid performance. And Villa, just couldn't really cope. But yeah, like I said, bounce back against Forest. John McGinn, 2 goals. I mean, no one's got John McGinn in their teams, have they? I mean, although he ticks over quite nicely. I mean, if you looked at his returns, he probably should get more of a look in people's FPL considerations than he does. Obviously, Morgan Rogers is highly owned. He only got one assist, which is a lovely 2-yard flick to the right for Watkins to finish from 30 yards. But you got Watkins in your team, and we said a few weeks ago that it was a pretty good pick. You went him over Ekitike, and as it's proved, a shrewd move.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, this is following your lead, actually, in many ways, is just looking at the data and seeing who is underperforming, overperforming, and just kind of making those decisions in the moment. I bought Watkins in, I think, game week 17, didn't really do anything. We had that chat prior to game week 18, and I said on that episode, I just feel like a haul is coming. And then saw that he was starting on the bench versus Chelsea, which I wasn't too happy about necessarily. But comes off the bench, bags a brace, and is it easily has been one of the more consistent strikers for me in that front three of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Watkins, and Haaland. I think where one of them isn't performing, the other two seem to be. So I feel like I've got a pretty good rotation across that front three right now.
And a lot of managers have gone off the front three because there are a lot of strikers underperforming. A lot have gone with the Haaland Ekitike double up. Probably the move is probably to go Haaland Watkins. So if you believe that Villa are going to sustain this run of good form, scoring goals, then Watkins surely has got to be involved in that. Whereas lots of people went to Rodgers, and his form's been a bit sort of indifferent, in and out. Watkins could be on a nice run. You could be ahead of that curve already by having him in. Although the switch to Ekitike to Watkins is pretty straightforward. As Ekitike missed out on today's game, rumours circulating that he was both ill and injured. So take it out what you will. I'm sure news will break in the next few days. But it's Arsenal next up for Liverpool anyway, so it might be a good jumping off point for Ekitike anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't go without saying as well that prior to that Arsenal game, that long winning run that Villa had, that Watkins wasn't pulling up trees throughout that period at all. Again, it was just one of those moments where I just kind of looked at the data and saw kind of, his XGI, and he was kind of massively under it. So I think now with those like 3 goals in the last 3 games, he's kind of brought himself back up onto his average, or where he
But
should be.
historically he's super consistent.
Hmm.
You can always put him in. I mean, people did, didn't they? Put him in from game week 1 and had to remove him because he wasn't doing anything. But you know that he's that good. Villa score goals. He's consistent. He will return eventually. It's just being patient, I guess. But quite a high price tag to sit on patience. I think you got on him probably at the right time. So well done.
Yeah, cheers. Forest, any particular thoughts on their game week this week? I think their form feels really indifferent at the moment. They can come in and beat a team 3-0, and then just not show up the next week either. So it's been very up and down season for them.
They're struggling, aren't they? They got a massive game this week away to West Ham. I mean, I've written a piece on West Ham to go through briefly because they're in big trouble. So it's a big game for both sides. Big 6 points already. Forest team on paper, when you look at it, is solid, but for whatever reason, Dyche has gone in there, not really improved them. They look at it in flashes, in spells in certain games, but the results over the main are pretty disappointing. And yeah, they're in trouble. I mean, if West Ham pick up, if West Ham beat them this week, there's only a point in it. Forest should be dragged into that sort of argument. Leeds as well, hovering just above them. So yeah, no, not for me. Forest, I've looked at their defensive assets. They're very highly priced based on their last season's form. I haven't really considered them for weeks, months, maybe.
Yeah, I know that Morgan Gibbs-White is probably floating around a lot of people's teams, and I think much like Haaland for City and Bowen for West Ham. Like, if you're going to have someone from that team, then it would probably be Morgan Gibbs-White. But if they're not putting the ball in the back of the net, then it's a bit of a dud pick in of itself. Obviously, did score that goal against Villa, and does look like probably the brightest spark out of that squad. But you're absolutely right. Like, struggling down at the wrong end of the table, and that Tuesday night game that kicks off game week 21 against West Ham is massive.
It's huge, both teams.
Yeah, I mean, West Ham especially will want to react. Well, I mean, certainly the fans will want a reaction after this weekend's game. Obviously, we're going to get into that in a little bit more, because we want to talk a little bit about Wolves specifically with regarding that fixture. But yeah, certainly massive game for both teams. Brighton beating Burnley 2-0. Burnley's away form continues to be horrid. Brighton again, picking up points where they need to, that without being overly flashy. My difficulty with Brighton right now, and I know that I had Welbeck for a little bit, when he was on a bit of a hot run, and people have had Minte come in and out of the squad. I don't think you can really tell like who is actually going to pick up the big points for Brighton right now. It feels like it changes from week to week.
they got massive rotation in that front line. It's very, very hard. I don't think the same players in that front line start. I mean, Minte missed out again this week. Reports he's picked up a bit of an injury. Matoma's come back in from injury. So maybe if he gets a run of games, he'll be the choice because historically he has been their main threat. I think if you go in Brighton, you go in defensively. Van Hecke is good value, 4.5. They're starting to keep clean sheets. Verbruggen in goal looks pretty solid. And they're both nailed. At least they're not being rotated. So if I was looking at Brighton, I'd probably look at those two defensive assets more than. I did look at Diego Gomez very briefly. He comes in very cheap. I think he's about 4.9 million in that midfield as that fifth midfielder. But again, he's in and out of the team. His position changes from some week he's the number 10, and then he's drifting back to play number 8. So yeah, I'd avoid all Brighton attacking assets, to be honest.
Yeah, like I say, the consistency of who is actually putting the ball in the back of the net is wildly different at the moment. I think, again, going back to the beginning of the season where we spoke about Jorginho Rutter potentially playing as a number 9 from as a midfield asset. Again, like he has picked up a couple of goals over the last couple of weeks, but whether or not that's going to be a consistent run and whether or not that he's then dropped for Welbeck or Welbeck starts getting more minutes again after this kind of heavy period of fixtures is over. Like it's anybody's
Who knows?
guess, isn't it? Yeah. Burnley obviously struggling away from home again, struggling in general. Really, I think they're definitely in amongst that group of teams at the bottom, as you say, Wolves, West Ham, Forest. Leeds are kind of in and around there, but I feel like Leeds are picking up really important points at the moment.
Well, Burnley got to be very careful not to be cut adrift. That away form needs to pick up, unless it does, that they'll be cut adrift, and because they can't rely solely on the home form, because the home form is only good to a point as well. They lost recently at home to Newcastle, although they put in a good display. I think it was game week. What are we now? Game week 19. Yeah. And I've held Martin Dubravka all season, and because I've paired him with Petrovic from Bournemouth, who have been woeful defensively, I've had to play Dubravka quite a lot. He's good for save points. I mean, he's good for like 6, 7, 8 save points a game. He throws in the odds clean sheet as well, 4 million. But other than that, I mean, Burnley. I mean, if you were brave enough, I'd probably say that they're probably doomed already, from what I've seen. And we're over the halfway point of the season now. I don't see a lot of things changing for Burnley, and I think the writing's on the wall for them.
Yeah, I mean, it would take a pretty big slip, really, wouldn't it? Again, from the West Ham, Forest, Leeds, that kind of like 3 teams above them to kind of put Burnley put Burnley in with a shout of survival.
They just don't score enough. They got no one really threatening up top, and although they're reasonably solid at the back, they still concede huge chances and a number of them per game, and that's got to improve. And I just can't see that happening for them, unfortunately.
No, that's fair enough. Moving on to we'll cover Bournemouth and Arsenal first of all, because I think there's a deeper chat to be had, as I said, about that Wolves West Ham game. 3-2 Arsenal, an apparently injured Declan Rice bagging 2 goals.
Well, we've mentioned it many times that Mikel Arteta is not the most. Well, I don't want to come out and say he blatantly lied, but he did. He said that Declan Rice's injury hadn't improved. He had a swollen knee. He said the swelling hadn't gone down, and then the very next day he's seen with the squad. He's then pictured doing the walk around the stadium, and then people are putting 2 and 2 together and thinking, well, he's definitely playing. Otherwise, he wouldn't be going through all this. And not only does he play, he plays, gets man of the match, scores twice. I'd like to see the stats actually of all the managers that left Rice on the bench or even sold him on the back of Arteta's words. It's only the teams the managers that forgot it was a deadline that left him in the starting lineup that benefited. And I'm talking about Ollie in our mini league. He completely forgot there was a deadline. left Rice in the team and benefited from his 17 points. But on a more serious note, I mean, I know Arteta doesn't care two hoots about the game, but his words are got to be taken with a huge pinch of salt. So if you've got Arsenal assets and there's injuries involved in those players, you've got to be really, really sort of careful with Arteta and not take him face value.
Yeah, I think well, absolutely. First and foremost, I think you're right as well. I think I saw so many managers like on the online forums, like they had Rice as third sub, and now I'm seeing screenshots now of like benches that have got more points on their bench than they have in their first team, and
But
things
he
like
was
that.
orange flagged because he missed the previous game. He wasn't yellow flagged, so it was a touch and go decision. I think when you see someone who's orange flagged, so 50%,
Yeah,
you would leave him on the bench.
yeah.
You know, you're thinking there's no chance he's playing this game. So poor, but not the first time Arteta has done it.
No, exactly. The only kind of, I guess, saving grace for those that maybe did transfer him out was that the most popular move was moving Rice onto someone a little bit cheaper, because then people were upgrading back to get Gabriel back into the squad,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously did return then with a goal as well. So yeah, really interesting moves for those people, and it kind of sort of paid off, I guess. But yeah, Gabriel back in that Arsenal back line, really kind of driving them towards that win against Bournemouth. Because
Well, I mean, did you watch the game? Because I mean, I saw the whole game, and his pass for Bournemouth's opening goal was something that you probably never see him ever do in his career.
No.
Like, he never looked up. He just got the ball and literally passed it square to Evan Nilsson, who and Raya had come to the edge of the box to get a pass of Gabriel, and the goal was just gaping. And I was fuming because I went back to the double Arsenal defence stupidly. I had a move to make, so I had the exact money to go from O'Reilly to Gabriel, or I could have gone Hincapié to Gabriel and just had one Arsenal defender. And I thought, you know what, let's go double Arsenal D, because they're still putting up the stats. They still follow the data trail and see where it goes. And he goes and does that after 9 minutes. Redeemed himself somewhat with the goal. Let's not hide that. He picked up Defcons as well, Gabriel, and had a great game after that. But such a soft goal to give away. And I guess that's indicative. If you go double defense, that's all it takes is one slip, one mistake, and that's completely ruined. You know, and not every team has a Gabriel to score to redeem mistakes like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. I think it was I think a lot of Arsenal fans would have had head in their hands at that moment, because again, you're going into that game against Bournemouth with the form that they're in, and the amount of goals that they're conceding at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
They would have expected to repeat what they did against Villa, and probably go out there and score 3 or 4 without the worry of conceding too many. And in the end, it actually ended up being quite a nervy sort of last 10 minutes for them.
Bournemouth are excellent. There was a stat that they got the highest percentage of the press winning the ball up in the highest third of the pitch, and that's where the goal come from, really, because the press they put on, the little traps they set in the midfield, it stops all the passing lanes from Gabriel to pass into, and so it wasn't solely his fault. It was more Bournemouth setting up like little traps and closing off passing lanes for him to slide the ball through. But they were good value, Bournemouth. They're unlucky, I think, to have lost the game. I mean, Arsenal were good too. It was a great game to watch, and I think a real signature for Arsenal in the title race, because to come through a game like that at the Vitality, where Bournemouth are really strong, I think is a indication that they can mix it. They can score the goals, they can defend, they can rotate because there's players missing, and still get the win, which is obviously all the signs that you need to win the title.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Okay, great weekend again for Arsenal fans. Not so great for West Ham fans. Circling back around to that last game on Saturday. Wolves' first win of the season. Bearing in mind, it's the 3rd of January that's coming. it's been a long old wait for Wolves fans.
Well, the worst start in Premier League history.
Yep.
I think it's the worst start in about 100 years for any team. To get your first win in the 20th game is madness. I saw a funny meme actually that said that we thought that Wolves were the worst team in the league. It just happened they hadn't played West Ham yet. I thought it was quite funny. I mean, on the game itself, Wolves completely dominated it, and 3-0 up at half time. And West Ham put in one of the worst performances I think you'll see. No shots on goal, an XG of 0.25 against the worst team in the league, and not just the worst team, like we said, one of the worst teams that we've seen for a number of years. And that's no disrespect to Wolves, that they have tried and they have looked better in the last few weeks. Rob Edwards is getting more out of the players than previous. They're very unlucky the previous week not to get a win against United. And then they pushed Arsenal the other week. A late own goal stopped them picking up a point there. So they have showed signs of improvement. I mean, I've got a list here. So they've got 6 points. I reckon they need 36 to stay up this season. So they're 30 points short of that. So that's 10 wins.
Yeah.
10 wins from the last 18 games. Sounds a tall order.
It's going to be some run, isn't it?
Isn't it? I mean, we know the history and the stats of previous seasons. They're gone, haven't they? I mean, they're not going to get 10 wins from 18 games. So, but for West Ham, putting in a performance as bad as that, surely Nuno is under pressure. He's only come in, replaced Potter, after a few games of the season. West Ham fans are up in arms. I listened to TalkSport the other day on the way to work. It was like a phone in, and one chap was crying.
Yeah.
After this performance. I mean, it's bad. I think this January window for them, this transfer window, is very, very important. They need to sign the right players and to get them out, because I think that squad of players will take them down.
I think it's always interesting though, isn't it, that we revert back to, like transfers need to be strong and they need to bring the right players in and things like that. But then you look at the players that they have brought in over, let's say, the last sort of 3 or 4 windows. They've been like pretty strong players. I would say maybe the last summer window wasn't the strongest. Relying on bringing in the likes of Callum Wilson and things like that. And no disrespect to players like Callum Wilson, but we know his history with long-term injuries and things like that. Like he's not really been the same player that he was sort of 3-4 seasons ago. Like these are the players that they have brought in the past are players that have performed like really well for the teams that they've bought them from, in the leagues that they've brought them from. And then just for whatever reason, like they get into East London and they're not the same player at all. I think the merry-go-round of managers definitely doesn't help, and different ideologies and things like that. I think they've probably had, counting back, maybe 4 managers probably in the last 12 months, something like that.
You got Potter, Logotegui before him.
Yeah.
We're on Nuno now. Nuno's now under pressure. He could very easily lose his job very soon.
Yeah.
So you're on 3 in just the last season.
Yeah.
Last calendar year.
It's crazy.
Something looked right at West Ham. I mean, Max Kilman was a big money signing for them. Looks a shadow of himself, and he was being booed by both sets of fans. Obviously, West Ham signed him from Wolves. Every time he touched the ball, both sets of fans were booing, which is poor, I think, from a West Ham point of view, because you've got to obviously get behind your team. And I see them banging trouble. We highlighted them before a ball was kicked at the start of the season, said that they could be one of those sides, be dragged into it. We also highlighted Wolves as a team that could potentially be brought into it. I never thought that 2 of them would be dragged in. I thought one of them could be, but with Sunderland and Leeds playing really well and picking up points, it looks like the 2 of the more established Premier League sides will go down this season. And like I say, unless West Ham do sign solid in this window and get the right players that hit the ground running, I can't see any other outcome apart from relegation for them.
Yeah, no, for sure. let's cover off the really obvious reaction that we might see from FPL players in terms of, we always see like the knee jerk of like, oh, someone's scored or they've played really well in game week 20, so that must mean that they're going to be great for the rest of the
Get them
season
in.
or whatever. Get them in. Are you seriously, or should anyone be seriously considering Wolves assets going forward? Is there anyone there that's, as you said, they performed better over the last 3 or 4 weeks? Is there anyone really there that's kind of driving that?
Well, there is one player. Like I mentioned about a lot of managers coming off the 3 forward formation. If you want a bench riding forward, or someone that's playing, so you got the young lad they brought in, Mane. He's an academy graduate. He's 4.5 mil, 1 goal, 2 assists in his 3 starts. He's 0.3 owned, so no one owns him. And what I've seen of him, he looks a player. Very lively, scored, got an assist. So if you want to have that 3 man attack, go Haaland, go Watkins, and a third, just to rotate on and off. I would look at Mane. Doesn't matter if Wolves are getting battered. If he returns in a 4-1, like we always mention, he's likely to do that. He looks a real live wire. And he's come out of the academy, so he's come out of nowhere. I don't think even Wolves have been talking about him really, because they got Strand Larsen and Tolo with a big money signing in the summer. Neither of them have hit the ground running this season, and this lad looks the real deal. So yeah, I would look at him seriously.
I think if nothing else, that he would fill that Mark Gu spot that most people have got Mark Gu in.
Well, exactly.
Anyway, and at least then with this player, that he's going to be getting game time and minutes like consistently and regularly.
Game times and now he's getting returns.
Yeah. Okay. No, cool. Good highlight. Okay, Sunday's games. Leeds 1, Manchester United 1. It doesn't get any better for Amarim's United, does it?
Is it ever going to get better?
I just can't see that it will, to be honest. I think I'm really, really surprised that again that kind of pressure on Amarim, like the talk of him being booted, disappeared throughout that. I think it was like 4 games, wasn't it? It was a 4-game winning run. United Strand had the Barbers Clippers at the ready, and it hasn't happened again for him since. They haven't had back-to-back wins again since that mid-November period.
No, I mean they have a few injuries, and they obviously have a few players at AFCON, and their form has been shocking in the last few weeks. I think really highlighting the importance of Bruno Fernandes in that team. As soon as he's out of the team, they look disjointed. They're short of ideas going forward. They're still conceding chances, so that can't be blamed on him anymore because he's not in the team. And I watched Aaron's press conference last week, and I just detected a slight change in his demeanour. And there's lots of sort of rumblings behind the scenes that they may be looking to replace him in the summer, because he mentioned about not being backed in the window despite all their woes. I think one of the games they finished with a back 5, and it was Aiden Heaven, Fredrickson, Malacia came on, who hasn't played for like 3 seasons. Yoro and Martinez was the back 5 they finished with, and they were chasing the game against Newcastle at home, and he finished with a back 5 of that. And I think a lot of people were looking at him, well, what's he doing? He always makes centre half substitutions when they're chasing games. His in-play tactics seems to be really sort of odd. And I think the hierarchy at United are probably looking at that, thinking, we have to make a change here, I think, because if we keep going down this road, I don't think they're going to get any better. Saying that, I looked at the league table this morning and couldn't believe they started the day in 5th. And
wild, isn't it?
Wild, absolutely wild. And I said to someone, is that because they're getting 4 points for a win? Because I can't think of life for me that how they managed to be in 5th place, because they've been pretty poor all season, albeit slightly better than they have been in the last couple of seasons. But I think the pressure's back on him, and if they don't recruit in January in this month, then I think that is a statement to him that they're not going to back him. Likewise, if they do spend, then I think the pressure probably eases a wee bit, but then results need to come if he's going to save his job in the summer.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's probably worth mentioning, though, that that kind of middle section of the table is really, really condensed as well. They are level on points as it stands with Chelsea in 5th, but they're actually only 4 points above Palace, who are in 14th. Who also have lost 4 in their last 5. So tells you kind of a lot about
But we're not going to talk about Palace, are we? Because it's not the done thing.
No, okay, fine. Not when you're on that kind of form anyway.
No,
it's all right, mate. The FA Cup's next week.
Great. Let's just go out to Macclesfield.
You mentioned earlier in the episode about those the teams that we thought were going to be in and around that relegation battle. I think we all unanimously agreed that Brentford would be one of those teams. Nothing doing so far. I think they had a bit of a sticky start to the season, but they've picked up and shown that they are definitely still a force to be reckoned with in the Premier League, beating Everton 4-2 away from home.
I mean, it just shows you that if you do sell your best players, that you can still perform, providing you work as a team.
Yeah,
providing the structure and the instructions given are clear and simple, and you play your players in their best positions. I mean, Thiago hat trick today, which is ironic because most managers removed him from their teams to get in Ekitike out. That was the move. Some kept Thiago in to have that 3 of him, Ekitike, and Haaland. But today's was his first goal since game week 13. So you would have had to have suffered, 7 blanks in a row. I think a lot of managers would have lost patience with that. Removed him pretty soon, and then he scores a hat trick away at Everton, which is weird because Everton have been pretty solid at the back. Brentford tend to score goals at home more than away. So a great result. They're not going to be relegated, are they? Brentford, they're far too good for that.
Yeah.
They probably amassed too many points already. And what a great job Keith Andrews has done. We were unsure at the start of the season, brand new manager, no experience whatsoever, but the Brentford always seem to do things their way, and it tends to always work because they are quite diligent in their decision making. They're very careful with it. And although we were skeptical of Keith Andrews, they clearly knew he was going to come in and do a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta praise the hierarchy at Brentford. They're definitely doing things differently, and they're doing it potentially the right way as well. They're producing a sustainable club that sells players at high value, and then replaces them with players that they seemingly know before anybody else are Premier League ready and good to go. So yeah, fair play to them.
So we discussed United just now, and West Ham as well previously. Is it only good recruiting if those recruits work? Or is it then seem to be poor recruiting if they don't work? I mean, where's the balance here?
It's an interesting point. I think the difference with what Brentford are doing and have done for quite some time now is that they've always picked up players based on data and evidence.
Yeah.
They've never gone out and bought a big money name because they had a good season last season.
That's right.
Like, it's always been based on pass completion percentages, recoveries. Like, they are all in on that XGI and per 90 stats and everything else like that. And that's why they're picking up the players that nobody has ever really heard of prior to them arriving at Brentford.
But they're buying players for a system and playing them in their right positions, aren't they? They're not trying to do what Amrin's trying to do at United and trying to shoehorn players into positions that's madness. Playing Ahmad at wing back and now he's playing Dorgu as a right winger. It's crazy stuff, isn't it? I think that's the difference, isn't it? You're buying players to play their position.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll let the Ahmad one slide on Amarim, because Ten Hag was the first one to play Ahmad at right wing back, and it seemingly worked as well. But
How did it work out for him?
well, yeah, indeed. But yeah, playing players outside of their their most comfortable positions, like obviously it's a no brainer. Don't do that, because
Mm-hmm.
that you're not going to get the optimum performance from them. I think what Brentford do really really well, as you said, like they look at those players, they go, okay, what are we really missing? Okay, we're missing a solid number 8. Let's go and look in Denmark for like the
Mm-hmm.
best number 8, and then they'll pick them up
Yeah,
and bring them in, and actually, for the most part, they're Premier League ready,
yeah,
because the job that they're doing is, regardless of whether they're getting them from the Danish Super League or from La Liga, the job that they're doing and have done is exactly the same. It's pick the
yeah.
ball up, head up, 5 yards to the left, 5 yards to the right, 5 yards forward, like, and that's all that they really
That's all
care
that's required. Yeah,
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 exactly. That's all that's required of
yeah.
them.
I mean, Jordan Henderson coming back to the league, I had doubts that he could still do it. He's been one of their best players. Keeps
Yep.
it simple, experienced head. Yeah, like you said, and they obviously looked at his data from previous seasons and thought, well, he can still do it.
Well, the thing is, like, his trip to Saudi obviously was ill advised on his behalf, and he got out of there as quickly as he went in.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at his numbers of what he did at Ajax. Like,
Yeah,
I think it was still really obvious that he could do a job. In fact, actually, I'm very surprised that he didn't end up back at Sunderland. I know that obviously it probably would have coincided with the Xhaka signing, and
yeah,
Xhaka's worked
exactly.
out
Yeah,
has
yeah.
worked out really really well there. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm very surprised that Henderson wasn't at the top of the list ahead
Yeah.
of Xhaka in many respects, because yeah, the numbers are definitely still
So,
there.
so, so my next question is why can't other clubs, the West Hams, the Man Uniteds, for example, look at clubs like that, Brighton, another great example,
Brighton, a great
and
example, yeah.
and follow suit? What is it not as easy as that, or do you think clubs like United, obviously fish in a bigger pond, they're looking at higher expectations throughout the season? Um, I don't know, maybe more money. Maybe money comes into it. They haven't got to cut corners and save and buy bargain basement players. Do
Well, I mean,
you think there's other things at play?
that's not necessarily true for United, though, is it? Because we know that they're on the breadline financially. Like, the Sir Jim Ratcliffe's come in and cut all sorts of things um, off the wage bill for various different reasons, because he said that United were on the verge of going bust. So maybe actually that route to finding like great Premier League quality players is probably something that they should look at. But I think the bigger play um, here for me is teams like Manchester United, teams like West Ham United. I feel like there's a fan pressure and a fan expectation to sign big names and
Mm-hmm.
recognize names. I think if a team like West Ham was to sign, I don't know, I'm going to use a random example, but like if they picked up Mikkel Damsgaard like three seasons ago, don't think the fan base would have been all that excited by it, and it
Well,
wouldn't
you
have.
use Jordan Henderson. So they bought him this season.
Yeah, I don't think, because West Ham and Manchester United consistently are looking at the commercial value of who they're bringing in. They're not
Mm.
necessarily looking at the results value. What West Ham's board and what Manchester United's board now are doing and have always tried to do is sell tickets. And you can't sell tickets if you're not bringing in big, exciting names. That's the crux of it for me, I think, personally. And unfortunately, 9 times out of 10, it doesn't really work out. Um, there's a,
Well,
we
West Ham are going to struggle to sell tickets in the Championship in that massive stadium of theirs next season
well,
unless
I
they're
don't
very
know.
careful.
You ask a lot of West Ham fans, they reckon that they'll sell it out in League One. They don't care, is it, because they've got a really hardcore core
Mm.
support.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting away from FPL chat. This is general football. I mean, I could do it all day long. I think that
Oh yeah.
there's lots of opinions out there about who's doing it right and who's doing it
Mm.
wrong. But yeah, let's get back to the task in hand. Fulham 2, Liverpool 2. I mean, what more can we say about Liverpool that hasn't already been said in terms of their results this season?
Well, again, they looked open. They've looked so vulnerable at the back all season, not been addressed. Van Dijk looks like he's ready to hang his boots up. But they were unlucky today. They scored their second goal in the 94th minute. Gakpo, who stepped in up front for Ekitike because he was missing, only to be done by an absolute howitzer from Reed in the 97th minute. But this is Liverpool. They haven't been putting teams to bed when they've been on top. They've been struggling to create like good chances every game, and that vulnerability at the back has come back to bite them game after game. And as a Van Dijk owner, I brought him in for that beautiful run of fixtures. You remember 6 weeks ago we highlighted their great run, 2 clean sheets in that run, and it's not enough. 6 million rated defender, it's not enough. Arsenal next week. Then they got Burnley the following week. So you have a decision if you have Liverpool assets. Do you play them against Arsenal? Do you bench them because you want to keep them for the Burnley game? And then I think that after that, that's them gone.
Yeah, no, that's it's a fair shout. I think definitely right to highlight those fixtures, and definitely think Van Dijk. Potentially, I think we did mention a couple of weeks ago that Connor Bradley was going to sit into that right back spot, and that seems to have come to fruition over the last 3 game weeks. Couple of attacking returns for him as well. I backed Frimpong over the last 3 game weeks. He's done reasonably okay. Again, 2 assists in the last 3 games.
Did he come on today? Do you know?
He did, yeah.
He did,
Bit disappointed to see him start on the bench. He came on with 15 or so minutes to go and set up that Gakpo potential winner, which obviously we now know wasn't the case. But a couple of returns in the last 3 games for Frimpong as well. I think you're right. I think do you now look at the likes of Van Dijk and if you've got Bradley, if you've got Frimpong, like, are they valuable assets for that Arsenal game? Probably argue Van Dijk certainly is the least valuable of those 3. Bradley and Frimpong at least have attacking returns to kind of fall back on. But
Florian Wirtz, two goals in the last 3 games for him.
Yep. I think that's probably the shining light for Liverpool over the last 2 game weeks, is that Florian Wirtz, something seems to have clicked in the last 2 weeks. Not too sure what, but maybe it's Arsenal fixture maybe a bit early to bring him in, but certainly looking at that Burnley fixture, it's not a bad shout. Like it was at the beginning of the season, 7 million at the beginning of the season was a potential bargain for Wirtz. So. But
Liverpool are a strange side because they've gone into Europe and given their best displays against the best in Europe. Putting a great performance the other week against Inter Milan and shut them out. So I wouldn't be completely surprised if they do the same to Arsenal. But on the basis of what you see against the lesser sides, you wouldn't be too confident they would shut Arsenal out. So I plan to keep Virgil, but bench him for the Arsenal game. And then bring him back for the Burnley game, and then depending on what happens in that game, if they concede, he will definitely be leaving my side for good, because that's his value for money, like you said, is not there.
Because you've got 2 Arsenal defenders as well, right?
I did.
So you're transferring one of them out for game week 21.
When we get onto that, I'll show you. Yeah,
all right.
I've lost patience with the double Arsenal defense.
Okay, fair enough. Because I was going to shoot a shot and say, on the stream that I think there's potential for that game to be 0-0.
Well done.
and I think like Van Dijk and Gabriel double up's probably not a bad shout.
Well, then people have got XTK in their teams, haven't they? So if you call a 0-0, I mean that means he's blanking. No one's going to be benching him. So
Be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Couple of other games to cover off. You said you don't want to talk about Palace, but unfortunately, I've got to talk about Bruno. Back-to-back double figure hauls for Bruno Guimaraes. I think that's 6 now for the season, and all of them have really come in pretty much the last 10 game weeks. So yeah, if you're not on him already, if you haven't been following the hype train that I've been driving for the last sort of 10, 11 weeks, then yeah, now is the time. I think tactically, eye test wise, data wise, everything's kind of lining up. It's showing that Bruno G is the man.
I wanted to have a real stacked 5-man midfield, and I've got Xhaka in the 5th place at the moment, and I've been looking for weeks, and I keep looking at Bruno G and just looking at his data and going, his data is terrible, and then so I'll ignore him on that, and then he'll go and score, and he'll do nothing for 2 games, and he'll score again. So he ticks along. So as that 5th midfielder, he's the perfect choice. And why I keep avoiding him, I don't know. It's probably because of you, to be honest. It's just to go against what you said.
I figured that might be the case, to be fair.
But he's been a great pickup. I mean, what season he's having. Another goal today. Defcons as well. I mean, I want to pick up from that game was Malik Chow. Yeah, I brought him in 3 weeks ago because Newcastle had a really good run of fixtures. It wasn't this fixture I was obviously targeting because I thought, obviously being a Palace man, that we would go there and do something. He scored today, clean sheet, Defcons, man of the match, full house, 17 points. Great. I take a little bit of solace in that, having beat our boys 2-0. Brennan Johnson on the positive started for us. Got yellow carded, did nothing else. On a Palace note, we're shot to bits. We can't wait for this weekend, FA Cup weekend to come, so we can rest some players because that's 33 games now already played in all competitions, which is madness.
It's pretty wild, isn't it?
Yeah, and Gladys only used 19 different players in that run. Players like Lacroix and Gay are absolutely on their feet, and you can see that we put a solid 60 minutes in and then can't give any more, and teams are picking us off late in games. It's happened regularly in the last sort of 6-7 weeks because they didn't buy enough players in the summer. Glasner has highlighted that. Steve Parish has come out and said we want to do business early in January because we got to back him and show that we mean business. Maybe too late, but we'll see what the window brings for Palace and new signings.
Yeah, I think Brennan Johnson is almost a perfect Palace signing in many respects. Like Premier League proven, young guy, going to be hungry for 90 minutes week in, week out. So yeah, all the best to him, and hope that he brings in some kind of respite for some of the other Palace players. Now, I'm chomping at the bit to get some of because Ismail Assar's still at AFCON, right?
Yeah, Senegal are in the quarterfinals now, so he'll be away for a bit longer.
Yeah, fair. Just to hit you as well with the as you said, the Bruno G Defcons. It's been counted back, by the way. He got 11, didn't get the required 12, unfortunately. Yeah,
it's a shame.
It was up there. And then they took it away. So I don't know. They must have rewatched the game. So
they do that. That's happened a fair bit. I think Timber was accredited with 9 last week.
Yeah.
Ofcom, but it's
Opta.
Opta had him at 10, and FPL obviously had to bump it up. So late in the day, he got given the 2 points. I know you were bemoaning when they update everything.
Oh yeah.
So everything gets put into the machine, and it all updates at 2 a.m. in the morning. So if you check it at 2 a.m., you'll get the live report. If you check it at 11:30 at night, you only get half of it. You get the bonus points are added, but the substitutions aren't in there, and the backdated Defcons aren't in there either.
Gotcha. Yeah, I got you, because I made that mistake of like looking at the results for, I think it was game week 18, um, or was it game week 19? Yeah, game week 19, and going like, oh, I've like done reasonably well against the global average, and
Mhm.
then found like the next morning that I hadn't done very well against the global average at all.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
last couple of games to tick off for game week 20, and then we'll round out the stream with a little bit of game week 21 chat. Spurs drawing at Sunderland, and City drawing at Chelsea. Sunderland continuing to pick up some really, really important points.
yeah.
Spurs still not really like winning the games that you would expect them to be winning.
They just look very functional.
Mm,
I know that's Thomas Franks' like DNA, I guess. Um, but I think Spurs fans, like you mentioned, West Ham and Man U fans wanting a certain style.
mm,
I think Frank might be a victim of not playing to that style because he's very functional in his approach. They look very solid at the back. They look a little shot shy up front. They're going to grind results out. I don't think Spurs fans are going to take to it if he carries on. Yeah, and Sunderland, yeah, what a breath of fresh air they've been this season. Been brilliant to watch. They were fantastic against City the other week. Very unlucky not to get the win. Defend, and they're so aggressive across the pitch. That's what I love to see. You know, I'm bemoaning Palace looking tired. You watch Sunderland play; they're at it 90 minutes, all over the pitch, man to man. Yeah, fantastic to watch, and great for the league. The newly
yeah.
promoted side via the playoffs as well, coming up. Ill prepared, threw a lot of money at it, a lot of signings. They've lost a lot of players to AFCON, hasn't really affected them at all. And Granit Xhaka probably one of the best signings of the season.
Yeah, totally agree with that, 100%. Yeah, great to see, as you said, and great for the league to see a team like Sunderland get promoted the way that they did, and then be able to sustain that in the Premier
Yeah,
League. Pressure on Frank potentially as
potentially. Yeah,
moving
me
into
and
the
Paul
second half.
discussed it the other week. I think mainly because of the Spurs fans, like you said, the Spurs fans want to see a certain style of football, and under Thomas Frank, they'll get functional set plays, big chances created, but it's not free flowing. It's very sort of mechanical, and I think Spurs fans will lose patience if results carry on the way they are, where they're not consistently picking up wins. I think the fans will turn pretty quick on him.
Yeah, I mean, if it hasn't happened already, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
they're right down at the wrong end of the table for
Mm-hmm.
second consecutive season. The Ange sacking kind of is looking like it's making less and less sense right now, because if a new manager can't get them significantly further up the table, then you've just ditched a manager that's won you a European trophy
Mm-hmm.
for no real benefit, really, to be honest. I don't
Sure.
and it's not even just the table position. I just don't see that stylistically that they've changed significantly either. They're still leaking really, really silly goals. They're still not necessarily scoring as much as they probably should
Mm-hmm.
do. I get that Frank's probably tightened them up on certain aspects of the game, as you said, the more functional aspects of the game, but it's proving not enough at the moment. And he could very well find himself going the same way as Enzo Maresca.
Well, I mean, just to round off Spurs, I mean, we've just signed Brennan Johnson off them, who was their top scorer last season, 18 goals across all competitions, 24 years old, one of the best sort of young players in the league, and they've let him go for a fraction of what they paid for him.
Mm.
Now, we know Daniel Levy's not there anymore to negotiate deals. I wouldn't have thought Levy would have let a player of that caliber leave for like £15 million less. Especially after the season that Johnson had with them last season. It's very odd. Obviously, Frank doesn't fancy him, which is why they've let him leave. He wasn't getting game time under him, which is obviously Palace's benefit. But I think it shows that Spurs maybe are a different proposition without Daniel Levy being there, which maybe to their detriment.
Yeah, for sure. I think like you say that transfer alone is very kind of problematic from a um, bringing banking on a young talent like that from Forest, right? We came through
Hmm.
from Forest
Yeah.
to spend that amount of money and then 3 seasons
Hmm.
to not get that kind of return. I mean, you would have expected with the performances that he's put in for Spurs up until this season. As you said, Frank clearly doesn't fancy him, but
Hmm.
he's been consistent when he has had the game time. He's shown what he can do.
Well, if you remember start of last season, we were talking about him potentially with the run of games being a Golden Boot contender because
Yep.
of his eye for goal, and he delivered.
Yep.
18 goals across all competitions last season is a fantastic return for a player that's not an out and out striker. Yeah, I mean, I read loads of Spurs fans really disappointed with their business on this. You couple that with their poor performances, lack of results. Yeah, I mean, the tide you can sense it, can't you? If things don't pick up soon, you can sense that wave of calling for Frank's head is on its way.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Probably same question as what I've had with regards to some of the other sort of poorer performing teams in the league. Are you monitoring any assets from Spurs right now? Is there anyone there that's kind of again, big fish in a small pond, so to speak?
Nobody.
No.
No, I haven't considered Spurs assets since I owned Kudus back at the start of the season, and he's gone off the boil. I guess if Solanke returns soon, and be looking for that striker position possibly, but you need to see him have a run of games and show a bit of spark. Other than that, there's no one on the Spurs front. No, not at all.
No. Okay, fair enough. I've just seen Richarlison pop up on the score sheet a couple of times. Just wondered what your thoughts were on
What I
him.
was saying is, if Solanke's back, then obviously Richarlison's minutes will be completely reduced.
Yeah.
So Solanke's the one I'll be watching, just monitoring, because he's due return any sort of game week now.
Okay.
But other than that, no, I'm not interested in Richarlison because he's still only getting sort of 60 minutes anyway.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Final game of game week 20, City versus Chelsea. 1-1 it finished. It's the first game post Enzo Maresca. Bit of a weird sacking in my mind, to be honest. I get that there was a bit of discontent over kind of tactics and substitutions and things like that. But position in the table isn't terrible. Like fifth, not far off. Kind of a poor performing Liverpool by what you would say by the last few years' standards.
Mm-hmm.
You'd kind of have to probably think that Villa might drop off at some point in the back end of this season. So third place is still very much up for grabs for Chelsea, which is kind of what I think most teams in and around that area of the table are aiming for. I don't think anyone, as you said, is going to break into that Arsenal City top two. So yeah, a bit of a weird sacking for me.
Well, I read, I think it was David Ornstein from the Athletic, put in an article that the Maresca was contractually obliged to tell Chelsea if he was talking to any other clubs,
Right.
and he apparently went to them on two separate occasions and told them that he had been in contact with Man City, because
Right.
there's plenty of rumours sort of circulating that this would be Pep's last season at City. Probably because he sees those charges racking up and thinks, well, now's probably the time to I don't know, just putting two and two together. Yeah, so that seemed a weird thing, and apparently that's what sparked it. That he has been talking to City about taking over from Pep at the end of the season. He was contractually obliged to tell the Chelsea board, and he's on two occasions he's gone to them and said, I have been talking to them, and they've gone, well, we can't be having it. And that's when the relationship started to break down, and they haven't been playing brilliantly either. Although league position is okay, but we had a bit of back and forward in our group discussion with the money they've outlaid. I think they're looking at the titles at Chelsea. And finishing third, finishing fourth is not an improvement on last season. Todd Bowley obviously wants a return on his investment. They spent a lot of money. I mean, I've got here that they spent 678 million in the last 5 seasons. That's net spend, which is huge. You know, to not be in the title race, which I don't think they are realistically.
No.
It's a lot of money to spend to not be considered in that top 2. So, yeah, you add it all together. I don't know who they get in. I mean, they're talking about Liam Rosenior, just a young fella on his managerial sort of start out in Strasbourg, doing a good job out there. Who knows? I mean, Chelsea are lords to themselves, really, aren't they? They're run completely differently to any other club, and it's hard to sort of get your head around what is going on.
Yeah, absolutely. You were talking about kind of return on investment, though, and that triggered a written piece that I saw earlier today that suggested that Maresca had lost control of picking the first 11 and the subs bench, and had been given directives of which players to sub in and to give game time to, because they'd invested in certain young players with the idea that they would be sold for a profit.
Right.
I don't know how true that is necessarily, but when you look at the strange pattern of substitutions that Maresca has made, particularly or sort of more so over the last sort of 6 or 7 game weeks, it kind of maybe holds a little bit of weight. I don't know if it's like tinfoil hat sort of stuff, but if Ted Bowley wants to get a return on investment on his £600 million net spend, winning trophies isn't necessarily the way that he's going to get it. It's going to be selling the likes of Esteval for 100 million.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be selling the likes of Cole Palmer for 100 million. It's going to be selling, Byron Gittins, for 60, 70 million, provided that he's got game time and stats to back it up.
I mean, there may be something in that. I mean, let me run through some players they signed this summer, and tell me, you tell me how well they've done. So they signed Buonanotte from Brighton for 25 mil.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you tell me if you think he's done well.
Didn't even know that he was at Chelsea, if I'm perfectly
honest.
There you
go. You got Garnacho signed from United for 48 million.
I think Garnacho is probably one of the ones that has had regular game time and looks like he impacts the game when he's on the field. I always felt like he had that potential when he was at United. 48 million's a steep price tag. But again, maybe he is one of those players where Maresca's being forced to give him game time and play, because the idea is that if he has a good season, they might be able to shift him on for 70 million in the summer or something.
Possibly. But then they also signed Jamie Gittins, plays the same position, 43 million for him. Hato from Ajax, they paid 38 million for him, hardly had a kick. And then obviously Delap comes in 32 million. He's been injured, probably not too fair to judge him. But that's just a handful of players I picked out that they've signed for massive money this summer that haven't really done a great deal. And then the players that they sold, I mean, they sold Nicholas Jackson for 54 mil, Nkunku, Dewsbury Hall, Madueke. I mean, crazy. They sold him for 33 million.
Yeah, but nobody rated that Madueke signing at Arsenal, by the way. I think, again, he's another one that's he seemingly impacts the game every time he plays for Arsenal, but nobody really saw that coming.
Sure.
I mean, even yourself, when we were talking in the summer about the Madueke signing, you weren't entirely convinced that.
Thought he wasn't good enough at that high end level where Arsenal pushing for Champions League trophies. I still think he's not at that level. But as a backup to Saka, in those games where Arsenal are probably going to win anyway, he's ideal. I just think Chelsea, when you look at them, they're just, they have a strong business ethic and blueprint of what they're trying to achieve. It's madness, really. And I think any manager in that situation is going to be under pressure. And I don't think anyone's going to be there for the long haul under that sort of stewardship. And I hope for Rosenior's sake that he sticks it out at Strasbourg. I know they got a direct link to Chelsea, so he's probably been groomed which is why he's there anyway.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's see. I mean, the young chap that was in charge today did a decent job. Chelsea played really well in that second half.
Yep.
City all over him in the first half, and roles were reversed in the second half. Chelsea came out and actually attacked them and done really well. Again, highlighting City's vulnerabilities at the back. Yeah, and a good weekend for Arsenal. They win, and all their rivals drop points.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, perfect week for them in many
And
respects.
lucky for us that Paul's not around, because he's actually going to be running into like 3 hours with the rant he'd be on. You know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're getting. I think we're probably going to get close because we haven't even covered game week 21 yet. But that's neither here nor there. So yeah, I mean, we're finishing off game week 20, as you say. Arsenal top of the league, 6 points clear, 5 wins from 5. Liverpool in game week 21. So let's get into some game week 21 chat. How do you want to handle this? I don't think it's sensible to go through fixture by fixture, but let's talk about.
I've just picked out 2 fixtures. I picked out the top of the table. Arsenal Liverpool obviously is the biggest game of this game week, and then that West Ham Forest game is the other one for other reasons that we sort of touched on already. Then we have a week off for the FA Cup, so you can reset. You can look at your teams. You can come up with a bit of a strategy for where you want to go. Just to let everyone know, there's another deadline this Tuesday, 6:30. So yet another. I think this is like the 8th deadline in something like 24 days.
Yeah, it's wild.
So
isn't it?
It's been crazy. I mean, I quite enjoy it. I like it when it comes thick and fast. It's good fun. But yeah, I mean, Arsenal Liverpool. It's one of those. It would have been the top 2 from last season going head to head. Would you be surprised if Liverpool turn up and put in a performance and beat Arsenal?
I don't know, to be honest. I feel like they're definitely capable of it, but there's just something not quite right there at the moment. And it's throughout the entire squad. I mean, obviously we know, what could potentially be impacting, everything that's happening within the squad, with the loss of Diogo Jota, sorry, in the summer, which is, it's got to be weighing on them massively psychologically, which is no surprise at all. And then you're bringing in 3 big money signings into that environment in Wirtz, Ekitike, Isak, and they're just what do you do with that? But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if we go into that game on Thursday, and it's Ekitike, Isak up top, front 2, and they really turn it on against Arsenal.
Isak won't be playing because he's currently broken legs, so he won't be playing. And Ekitike, I mean, if so, obviously got ear to the ground with him, because I read conflicting reports today why he missed out. Some said that he was ill last minute, pulled out. Others said he actually picked up an injury in the previous game, which I tend to believe more, because he was struggling towards the end of that game. So he may not even make it for that game, And then they go to Arsenal, the best defence in the land, with Gakpo as their centre forward. So they could be wildly sort of weakened. I think Liverpool's problem is that just defensively they look soft.
Yeah,
every team seems to find a way of getting in often, and they don't seem to be able to combat it. And like I mentioned before, it reminds me very much of that Klopp last season that he was there. They were all guns blazing, trying to win games, sort of 4-3, and for that you need to score 4 times. I think the problem they're having this season, they're soft at the back and they've just not been able to score the goals. And today's game highlighted it. They were the best team for much of the game, and it finishes 2-2 because they're unable to put games to bed and are unable to stop teams from scoring at the other end. So, but I wouldn't be surprised if they go there and get a result against Arsenal. It'd be typical of what Liverpool's performance have been this season against the better teams.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you've mentioned there about the Liverpool defense being soft, and actually you've said a few times around Van Dijk just being just a bit heavy-footed as well. Like just not keeping up with the pace of the game as much as what he used to
But
in
he's
previous
always
seasons.
bowed himself out because he's been quick. I mean, me and Paul have sort of gone into Van Dijk sort of the way he plays. He's not a great reader of the game because he's a bit of an athlete, and I guess he's a bit like Saliba at Arsenal, where they're a bit of an athlete, they're quick, they don't have to really read the game. Whereas a player that doesn't rely solely on the physicality tends to be more switched on. I think years just caught up with him. He's just not as quick as he was. He still doesn't read the game very well. And that's why you see him in positions that you think, well, why is he there? And Kanate seems to get the brunt of it a lot because he's not Van Dijk.
Yeah.
You know, so if Liverpool can see the goal, it must be Kanate's fault because he's out of position or he's dived in. But I think when you watch it carefully, Van Dijk's dropping deep because he's lost that pace and he's leaving Kanate exposed. And I think you've got Kirkes on the left who hasn't settled into that Liverpool team at all. And then the right back position has been like a revolving door.
Yeah.
A different right back pretty much every game. So that's where their problems lie. Arsenal can definitely get at them and win that game comfortably. But I wouldn't be shocked if Liverpool go there and put in a really good performance and get a result.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. Me either. Even if I am expecting Isak to play with a broken leg. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to redeem myself from that one. I think I just completely forgot about it in a haze of turkey dinners and.
It's because the game weeks have come thick and fast. You've forgotten what's happened 3 weeks ago because it feels like it was last year.
It happened 3 game weeks ago,
yeah.
which was actually only 10 days ago. It's wild there. It's just
it's been crazy.
Yeah. The other game that you said, West Ham Forest, obviously we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, massive game for both of those two teams. Pretty much, if West Ham lose this, do you see Nuno being kind of shown the door at the expense of his former team?
Yeah, I think it's a massive game for West Ham. They have to win it. I think they will win it because of what I've seen of Forest, they look lackluster. And they still have that Ange defensive frailties with them as well. That they conceding goals and Dyche. You look at that back four that Forest have. It's solid, good goalkeeper, really good centre halves. But they look really open. Elliot Anderson in the midfield, they got a solid core to that team. I think West Ham win. I think they win it. They have to win it. I think you're right. If they lose it, I think Nuno is shown the door, unfortunately, because I really rate Nuno as a manager. I think he's very underrated. Just that West Ham role, it's very similar to the Chelsea role, isn't it? That you got any manager that takes it on is taking a massive risk for their own personal sort of name and reputation. Takes a batting. I mean, Graham Potter's had to go and manage Sweden just to get out of West Ham. Big game at the bottom. And for me, West Ham just edge it.
Interesting. So, is there like any assets then at West Ham where you feel like if you were going to have like one shot, if you're going to be like a one and done for this game with the idea that they're going to win it, who do you think is going to be picking up the points?
Well, I think there's 2 assets you can look at for West Ham. Obviously, Jarrod Bowen being the obvious one. Again, you go back to that formation setup that you want your teams. You got Haaland plus one other striker. Most people are going to Ekitike. You got Watkins. There is a call to go Bowen and Haaland. But I quite like Lucas Paquetá in there as well. Yeah, he's a 90-minute man. He's on penalties. I mean, he's a shyster, isn't he, really? He's such an in-and-out type player. Yeah, he's brilliant one game and then rolls around on his backside for 3 games. But I think he offers good value. He's only 5.9 million in the game on penalties in a team that needs to pick up points. I think he could be a little gem that you could pick up for a few weeks.
Do you know, it makes me so happy that some of the hidden gems that I was highlighting in like game weeks 1, 2, and 3 that you guys all laughed at, that we're now going into game weeks 21 and you're going, oh yeah, actually, yeah, Bruno G, Lucas Paquetá, yeah.
I still haven't owned him in my own team, though, mate.
No, well, that's neither here nor there.
That's my detriment, isn't it? Because if I'd have been on Bruno G when you picked him up, I'd be laughing. Yeah.
Well, there's still time, my friend.
I'm going to ignore him every week.
Yeah. Cool, fair enough. I think the other game that I would like to highlight in that as well is Burnley versus Manchester United. I think, as we mentioned there, that if Burnley are going to escape the relegation zone, they're going to have to start picking up points. They are playing United at home, which is predominantly this season where they've earned a majority of their points. And I've just got a feeling that Burnley are going to do something against that United side. Would not be surprised to see a 1-0 or a 2-0 or a 2-1 or something like that.
Do you ever play Last Man Standing?
Yeah, but I haven't done it this season. I have done it in previous seasons. I'm not very good at it, if I'm perfectly honest.
So, I mean, if you were in that, would you be putting your money on Burnley because you got to pick Burnley in a given fixture?
No, so I think my one shot for this week would probably still be to target Wolves. I'd probably go Everton versus Wolves. But I just think like Burnley, it's just equal measures of like United have been so poor and Burnley are very desperate to just continue to put like big points on the board. And again, like that back five that you mentioned that Amorim has finished the last two games with, like, doesn't fill you with any confidence at all.
It's terrible.
That the likes of someone like Lyle Foster might be able to just bang one in from 20, 30 yards and they'll walk away with a 1-0 win and be one of those ones. But yeah, like if we were playing last man standing, I think Wolves would still be the team to target.
Okay.
Yeah. With that in mind, Everton assets. Like, are we still thinking that attacking assets versus Wolves is the way to go? I know that Everton have been a bit light on the attacking front in recent weeks.
Well, I think most people Everton wise have gone defensively. Michael Keane, Tarkowski, very popular. Paulie brought in Pickford for his 11-point haul last week, and unfortunately they conceded 4 today, which is very unlike them. They've been very sort of very noisy, haven't they? Tight all over the pitch. So to concede 4 today was a bit of a shock. James Garner's been getting a lot of praise. We highlighted Alcaraz coming in. He comes in, plays really well, and then gets injured. And James Garner's really picked up that mantle. DEFCON animal almost every game. Takes corners, really cheap. I think he only comes in at 5 million as well. So he could be a nice. If you got a 5-man midfield, he could be that 5th mid in there. And the strikers, both of them scored today. Beto and Barry scored. That's Barry's 2nd goal. So maybe. I mean, we mentioned Mane as your cheap 3rd striker. Maybe one of the Everton boys could fill that role as well, potentially.
Yep. So just on Beto, because I did do a little bit of research before this episode. I know that will probably surprise you.
You said you're having dinner up until about 5 to 9.
But I was looking at like some of the data and again wanting to highlight a couple of players that are underperforming their data, because typically if a player is underperforming data, a purple patch is on the horizon of where like that it aggregates and they should come up to their average. Beto is one of those players that I would have highlighted. He's currently underperforming his XG by 4 goals this season. So looking at where those kind of green fixtures are for Everton, obviously Wolves would definitely be one of them. The data suggests that Beto is on for a little
provided
bit of a run.
He plays, because Moyes has been favouring Barry as a starter of late. But yeah, having both scored today, maybe Beto starts. He's a woefully poor finisher from what I've seen of him. He gets the chances. He's a bit Mateta-like.
Yeah.
Gets the chances, and yeah, he needs 4 chances to put one of them one of them in. You haven't mentioned your boy Calvert-Lewin either in this pod. I mean, that's another great pickup that you've had in recent weeks.
Yeah,
And his form doesn't seem to be coming to an end anytime soon.
I'm not going to take too much credit for Calvert-Lewin pick, because it wasn't really as left field as what it would normally be for me. I think he'd already scored sort of 4 games in a row by the time
Yeah,
I
but
brought him in.
you still jumped on him and he still carried on scoring, and everybody else has ignored him.
Yeah, I mean that's fair enough. I don't know. Maybe he's one of those ones that is overperforming his data, and the bubble's got to burst at some point. Obviously, blanked this weekend. Newcastle in game week 21. Newcastle do look a little bit soft at the back. They are liable to concede, a goal or two. So yeah, maybe Dominic Calvert-Lewin does pick up his scoring again.
In seasons gone by, he's been your number one underperform on the numbers. Just it seems that this season everything he's touched has gone in. So maybe those numbers revert and he goes on a barren spell of 20 games now just to put those numbers back to where they usually are.
Yeah, I mean it would be classic me to bring someone in right at the end of their streak and then hold them during their coldest run. But to be honest, the Calvert-Lewin pick actually was a budget sensibility as well. He's going to sit in that third striker spot for me. I'll rotate him in and out of games, on and off the bench. Although you've made a pretty strong case for Mane at Wolves, and it does save me another sort of 0.5, 0.6 of £1 million. So
you'll be wild carding or free hitting in the next few weeks, I'd imagine. Seeing as the chips have all been reset, so I'm amazed you resisted this week, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely a case of second half of the season. I'm looking at double game weeks and blank weeks. So they're going to come sort of in and around game week 33. So I'm gonna hold. Traditionally, I wouldn't.
Sit tight, yeah.
Yeah, traditionally I wouldn't, but I'm gonna say that having 2 chips, double chips this year, I'd be silly not to do both strategies of spend them at the beginning of the season and then still have that second chance to cover the blanks and the doubles at the back end of the season as well.
So deadline on Tuesday, 6:30. What are your plans for this week? I know you rolled your transfer this week, so you go into this week with two transfers. Yes. So what's your plans?
Yeah, so I'm looking at potentially rolling again. I'm quite happy with the starting 11 that I put out this week. All 5 of my midfielders did at least something, albeit Cherky and Foden's returns was only the clean sheet, but still I'm happier with 3 points than I am 1 or none. I did have Harry Wilson on the bench. I was kind of hoping that he was going to come in somehow, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Yeah, I'm quite happy with where I'm at. I've got triple City attack still. Again, hoping that there's no kind of rotation going into that Brighton game, and that Cherky, Foden, and Haaland are kind of the City front 3 going into that game.
There must be rotation coming soon because they've played regularly now for probably 4 or 5, maybe 6 games. I mean, Foden started the last 9 games.
Yeah.
I brought him in, talking about mistiming things. I brought him in right at the end of his run, and I've just had consistently 2 points off him for 3 weeks straight. I mean, there's no reason to get rid of him because he's playing as an attacking midfielder in a Man City side that will score plenty of goals. But to miss out on all those hauls is quite frustrating.
Yeah.
So my only plan this week, I've actually done my transfer already because I think the guy I brought in is going to have a price increase. So I've removed Hincapié because it's Liverpool this week. But I still think you could be correct with a 0-0. I just don't want to risk any double Arsenal heartache anymore. And I've brought in Nathan Collins from Brentford, 4.9. Saves me a bit of money, which I need going forward because I need to improve the Xhaka position in my midfield. Brentford have still got a couple of nice games coming up defensively, starting with Sunderland on Wednesday.
Yep, nice. I think you're right. I think that double Arsenal defence is not doing you any favours. Hasn't done for quite some weeks now. I think I can't kept a clean sheet. I think maybe 2 or 3 game weeks ago, but it's been
Against
what?
Everton, they did.
Yeah, one one clean sheet in the last 5 or 6 game weeks.
Yeah.
So it's been it's not been great in terms of clean sheet value. Maybe that actually, ironically, now that you've taken Hincapié out, that because obviously Gabriel's back in that squad, that the clean sheets start racking up again. I'm sticking with Raya in goal, although saying what I said about like the Burnley game against Manchester United, I do have Dubravka on my bench, so Dubravka might come in for Raya for this particular game week. I have also got Cunha in my squad and Dorgu, so I kind of, I know that you've mentioned before about like playing the odds and stuff, but if it's at the back of my mind that Arsenal Liverpool could be a 0-0, then Raya gets the clean sheet. And if it's at the back of my mind that the Burnley United game could be a bit of a ding dong affair and Dorgu and Cunha are scoring against Dubravka, there's no real benefit. So I need to have a little think about that. But yeah, otherwise, I think I'm going to roll my transfer.
Cool.
I'm probably going to bring Cash off my bench over Gay. I think you're right that Palace players in general are a bit dead on their feet. The only reason that I'm not actually transferring Gay out, potentially I'm hoping that it might kind of improve after the FA Cup break and they have a week off and we go into game week 22 kind of renewed a little bit.
It goes for a while. There's one game a week, I think, until March, until the European games kick back in. So hopefully we'll see a bit of an improvement in the Palace performances on the back of that with regular rests. Because playing those Thursday Sundays just caught up with them. And as everyone knows, every team that's been in that position, it's happened. The same things happened to them. Brighton a few years ago, West Ham when they were in there. You can't play every game to the standards you want to play because it's physically impossible.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Okay, so my starting 11 as it currently stands will be Raya, Cash, Dorgu, Frimpong, Cunha, Cherky, Foden, Bruno G across the middle, Calvert-Lewin, Watkins, and Haaland up top. I'm very, very, very tempted to put the armband on Bruno G versus Liverpool, versus Bruno G versus Leeds. Double-digit hauls in the last 2 games. I missed out on one because I had him on the bench, stupidly, in game week 19. So, yeah, I'm gonna maybe play the odds a little bit and see if Bruno G can do something against Leeds and put the armband on him.
See, I look at that and go, well, playing the odds for me is back in Haaland because he's blanked 3 games in a row. Surely he doesn't blank 4 in a row.
Ooh, yeah, it's a good point. It's a very good point. The only thing that for me personally, I think if I don't put the captain's armband on Haaland, my hope is that I'm covered with Foden and Cherky because they'll likely be the one that gets the assist. So it kind of, from a points and ownership perspective, it kind of effective ownership, I should say, and points perspective, it kind of balances out for me a little bit.
I think one of those two is in danger of benching.
God,
I can just sense it.
All right. Well, I think I've got to stick to my guns. I'm going to roll the transfer. I'm going to go into game week 22 with a three transfers, three free transfers, and then we'll see what happens. We'll go from there.
Good.
Cool. Your first 11, mate. If you want to give it a shout out before we close the episode out.
If I can remember it, obviously, my phone is broke. I did send it over to you. I think if I remember, I've got Petrovic in goal. Going to bring him back in because that Burnley game, I think United do score. I've got Malik Chow. I'm playing Gabriel Nathan Collins is my new sign-in. Alderete, I'm playing 4 at the back. Got Saka, Cunha. Who else do I have in the midfield? I know Jack is on the bench, playing Haaland and Ekitike if he's back up top. Rodgers is in there. They got a nice fixture against Palace. I've got my eye on Brennan Johnson as well as a future signing. I think he'll hit the ground running for us and could be a nice little get in there before everyone else is looking at him in a week or two.
Yep, no, fair enough. I think that's it's a good shout. I think Brennan Johnson at Palace is definitely an interesting player, and I think it'd be one that I'll be keeping my eye on, particularly as triple City attack is not sustainable going forward. I'm going to have to drop one of them at some point. Cherky maybe down to Brennan Johnson's probably not a bad shout.
Mm-hmm.
Got your team up here. I did see that you sent it to me. You've recalled it perfectly. All good. All right, mate. Well, deadline 6:30 Tuesday. Thank you very much for joining us for this little chat / ramble, I suppose.
Graphicless chat because Paul, the graphic man,
he's
on holiday. Sorry, he's not on holidays. He's working.
No. He's working. Yeah, but he's just in Vegas working. That's right.
He went business class. Did you see?
He said,
business class. He said he rubbed shoulders. He saw Patrick Vieira at the lounge.
Yeah,
and then was sat next to who's he sat next to yesterday on the flight?
Bella Ramsey.
Yeah.
There you go. We can't all be business class jet setters, I suppose. But
sounds like a proper holiday, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. I suppose it's on the business's dime, though, isn't it? So you're always gonna book the best seats to everything.
Good luck to him.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Tuesday, 6:30 deadline. FA Cup next weekend. We'll probably try and get another episode out once Paul returns, and we'll do like a little half-year review of players that we've maybe missed out on or not, or trends that we've spotted and things like that. We'll do a full review of where we're up to that point, and then we will prepare you for game week 22. In the meantime, if you've enjoyed watching this episode, please drop a like, drop some comments for your thoughts drop your own thoughts for the half year up to this point. How are you doing? Where are you in your mini leagues? Where are you in the global rankings? Who's been your standout player? Any left field picks that have performed for you at the chagrin of your mates? And they will continue to actively avoid, even though they are performing. Just let us know. Have a chat. And in the meantime, we will see you ready for game week 22. See you later.
Bye-bye.